Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's the 2nd of May 2022. It's Monday. My name is Kerry Holzman, a working computer technician in the profession over 3 decades, here to share with you my experience and to give you a different perspective from the most common types of videos here on YouTube that comes from amateur enthusiasts and hobbyists just looking for something to do and have money and time on their hands. For the rest of us, looking to keep things practical and pragmatic, affordable, and to fix it once and be done with it, this is the channel for you. In the meantime, nothing wrong with those hobbyist and enthusiast channels. Just understand the difference between what a hobbyist might do and what somebody working in the profession might do that would be completely different in all aspects of time and money. Now, with that being said, today I'm going to show you something a little different than I normally do here, and that is replacing the battery on a UPS. Briefly, a UPS is an uninterruptible power supply. In a sense, if you have a laptop, it's got a battery in it. So you can plug the laptop in and run off power from the wall, or you can unplug it from the wall and run off the battery. If, for example, while you're using your laptop, the power goes out in the building when you're plugged in, the laptop isn't affected, it automatically kicks over to battery. Well, that's what this is for. If you should lose power on your desktop computer, this has a fairly large battery in here, similar to a car battery, lead acid, very heavy battery, and it'll get you maybe about 10 minutes of extra time. It's not there for you to continue working. It's there so that you can save whatever you're working on and then safely shut the computer down. You should not plug in high draw items like laser printers and whatnot. Only items you would need in an emergency, such as your modem, your switch, your router, your desktop, your monitor, and that should be about it. You don't need to have speakers, you don't need to have your printer, and again, it's really just there so that in an unexpected power outage you don't lose everything you're working on, and it doesn't damage the computer because you can safely shut it down. Now, many of these, including this unit here, have a USB cable that you can optionally attach to the computer. And so if you were to walk away, perhaps you ran out to grab a cup of coffee or something, and the power outage happened while you were away, the system sends a signal to the computer and tells it to save everything and shut down. And that's utilizing also the Cyberpower software that you can download from the website. Now, these units come in various voltages. The more voltage you have, the longer it will last, or the more items it can power. Again, it's not really meant to let you work while the power's off. It's really there so you can save your work and safely power off the machine. This is, I think, 1,000. Yeah, it's 1,000 volt amps, and they come in various sizes. The higher the number, the more money. This is about $140, and you can buy third-party knockoff batteries, if you will. You don't have to buy them direct from the manufacturer. The batteries are about $25 a piece. Usually, I advise my clients to replace these when they go bad because you have to recycle the batteries. You can't just throw them in the trash. Well, I suppose you could, but if you get caught, the city's probably going to fine you. And they're heavy, they're bulky. So I never quite know the length of life that a third-party battery might have, and in a business, we don't want to play around with that. The battery life on these is about 3 to 4 years. Whether you've ever used it, it doesn't matter. You could put a brand new car battery in a car, park it, and not turn it on for 3 years, and likely that battery will be dead and unable to charge and will need to be replaced. That's the way batteries work. So if you've plugged this in and you've never had a power outage, after 3 years, well, 3 to 4 years, you should replace it. What if you don't replace it? This is where things get interesting. If you go beyond the life of the battery, because, hey, it still works, why should I replace it? One, you should replace it while it still works, because if you wait, what will start happening is your computer, in many cases, will start to randomly cycle power. That means right in the middle of you working on something, even though nothing has happened to the power in the building, the battery, when they go out, they do all kinds of weird stuff. And sometimes, in fact, quite often, when they start to die, they send false signals out to the UPS, tricking it into thinking it's losing power, which in fact it is. It's losing battery power, which then can cause a reset cycle to occur, and it'll happen without warning. You'll just be working and then boom, computer shuts off. And what did that happen for? Didn't I buy the UPS to protect me in that very circumstance? Yes, you did. But didn't it just cause the very circumstance that I bought it to prevent? Well, you caused it. Well, how did I cause it? Well, you caused it because you didn't change the battery after 3 to 4 years. So you'll notice I have a little label maker, and all these I put a date. Now this one says, and it doesn't have to have the exact day, it doesn't have to be exactly 3 years. I put the month and the year on it. So this one says it was installed July 2018. So it should have been replaced sometime around July of 2021. Now this customer has about 13 of these. Again, I don't recommend it because they do cause problems at $140 plus tax. So we're looking at $150 times 13 of these every 3 years. Whether you used it or you didn't, has to be replaced. Like I say, with the knockoff batteries, maybe the last 3 years, I don't know. That's fine for a hobbyist, but for a professional business, you don't want to mess around with stuff like that because your employees that you're paying could lose the work and have to recreate that work. So you're paying that employee twice to do the same work. So paying a few extra dollars to get your warranty, it's worth it in a business environment. So what I do is I take these back from my customer as a service that I offer to my clients, and I recycle them for them. And what I'm going to do is change the battery out with a knockoff $25 battery, and I'm going to give them away to my friends. They cost about $80 to ship, so I'm not shipping them to any of you. But my friends that are here locally, I'll just say, hey, do you want a UPS? I'm going to change this label. It's going to say installed May, or new battery May of 2022. And then it's going to have another label that says replace battery every 3 years. Now, if my friends don't follow that advice because, hey, it works, it's just a matter of time before they call me and tell me about their computer randomly shutting off. Or sometimes these things just start beeping like a smoke detector, and it'll drive you crazy. Now, on the back of these units, only one side has battery protection. This side here with this, where you see the white, this is the side that's going to provide battery protection if it loses power. The other side, that's just a surge protector. So you can plug your laser printer into this side, but you don't want to plug any high draw items into the battery side, or it'll drain your battery in seconds in a power outage situation. So just the critical stuff, like I say, a router, a switch, a modem, your computer itself, your monitor, just critical items you would need in a power outage so that you can safely save your work and then safely shut down the computer properly. Now this unit also has coaxial protection. It has phone and network protection, which I don't use these. And it's got the USB port I talked about for communicating with the computer if you download the Cyberpower software. Now APC is another company that manufactures these. I think the Cyberpower ones are much nicer and are more affordable. That's just my opinion. You've got a big red reset switch back here as well. Today I'm going to just show you how to change the battery out if you want to do that for yourself. Again, if you're running a business, I don't recommend this unless you're buying the manufacturer's battery. And it is important, critically important, that you recycle these batteries. I've got about 13 of these to do, so I'm going to return all the batteries at one time. I got to drive to a special location, to a recycling facility that will accept them. And each battery weighs, I want to say they weigh, are they 12 pounds? They're 2.49 kilograms, so it may not be that heavy. Let me do a quick Google search of 2.49 kilograms to pounds. It says it's 5.5 pounds. Well, that's just the battery, right? So you got the rest of the unit. So you got 5.5 pounds times, we've got 13 of them. So let's just say 5.5 times 13. That means I'm going to be moving about 72 pounds of batteries. And one of the batteries in one of the units was leaking. And if you get that on your skin, it'll have a kind of an itchy burning sensation. And you can just wash it off. You don't have to use any chemicals. But if you put that in a car or you put it on something like carpet, it's going to eat through the carpet when you wash it the next time it gets washed. If it gets on your shirt, you won't notice anything until you put your shirt in the wash, and it'll have a hole where the battery acid got on. So this is not for the light of heart. That's why I just recommend people, for liability reasons, not only for the battery life and warranty, but also for the potential harm that the battery acid can cause if it gets on your skin or on your clothes, or if you put the batteries in your nice car because you want to do the right thing and recycle them, and then a few months later you're, I don't know, cleaning the car and there's great big holes in the interior or the carpet or even in the trunk material. So I would recommend when you transport the batteries, keep them in a dry, clean cardboard box. You can eat through the cardboard box all at once and then take the cardboard box out. And if you're concerned about any liquid soaking into that cardboard box, then lay another piece of cardboard on top of it. So recycling this is not for the lighthearted. And again, if you had something like a pickup truck, a junker or a beater you didn't care about, you throw it in the back, so be it. But these batteries can and do leak, and when they leak, it looks like water, but it is not water. And as soon as you get it on your skin, it will, like I said, it'll start to be like an itching, and it'll start to become painful. So best to just wash that off in the sink. Just regular soap and water is all you need. All right, guys, a bunch of contributions flying in. So let's give some shouts out and thank you to these kind and generous folks here in the community. We've got $19.99 from Find Me in Hawaii, and £2 from Paul Cleaver, $5 from Paul Carroll. He says, hi, Carrie, and thanks for showing battery replacement. Awesome. Happy May Day or Cinco de Mayo. Here is a little something for a May drink. All right, thank you. Cheers, Paul. And Paul Cleaver, again, with £2. He says, just to say thank you for a great person. Oh, that's kind. Thank you, Paul. Another Paul. And Gaming 44 contributes $4.99. Says, I'm not feeling good. I have COVID, which is not fun. I hope to feel 100% soon. I'm going to help my friend with his Dell Optiplex 7080 Windows 10 on it. Very good. All right. Well, stay safe. I hope you feel better soon. COVID is no fun. That is agreed. And thank you to both Pauls, Gaming 44, and Find Me in Hawaii. Prior to the show, John Jack Wilson, you often see John Wilson in the chat, generously contributed via PayPal, and that's going to be used to cover the shipping on the veterans giveaways. Since I mentioned on the veteran giveaways nobody had replied, 2 of 3 people did reply, and I got their computers shipped today. And it's funny, the FedEx guy was like, all right, that one's going to be $103. And I was like, what? When I ship the hand-built computers, they're double boxed, and they'll generally cost about that or more to ship. But these veterans computers, they're already in a shipping container, so they're small form factor. They should be like $60. So I said, $101, it doesn't sound right, or 103, whatever it was. He goes, oh, wait a minute. And then he realized when he measured the box, he entered the dimensions. He hit the number 1, and he was putting like the width of like 5 inches, and it ended up being, he put in 15 inches, and it made a significant difference in the price. So if I wasn't paying attention, if I'm just, here, take care of that, and oh, what's the bill? Okay, there's no refund on that. That's how it gets written up. So thankfully we caught that. But those are about $60 each to ship because I've already got them packed. I'm not paying for the additional packing material like I am on the hand-built machines. So again, and John Jack Wilson is a veteran, and he's always been very supportive here as well as to other veterans. And just want to give a shout out and a thank you. And if you see him in the chat, say hello to him. All right, guys. As far as changing the batteries out in these, they're super easy. This is going to happen pretty quick, so I hope you're paying attention. If you blink, you might miss it. Okay, it's not that fast, but it's really, really simple. First and foremost, you want to make the machine, turn the machine off. It's got a power button just like a computer. If we turn it on, it's going to run off the battery, and it's probably going to scream at us that there's no power coming in. Anytime that it's running off the battery, it is going to beep at you knowingly that it has lost power. That's how it's telling you, I am running on the battery right now. And on this display, we can cycle through a number of different informational screens regarding the state of the battery. Now, after this customer had that unit start causing random reboots, I said, what's the date on it? Because I said to replace these after 3 years. They said, oh, it says July of 2018. Okay, well, so do you want to change them all, or do you just want to wait for this to happen to each one of them? Oh, no, we're going to change them all. I said, okay. So customers, it's pretty common, they wait for a problem and then they react to it. Rather than being proactive, you know, what are they getting, an extra couple of months? If we would have changed this in, let's say, August, they got additional June, July, August, September, October, November, December. They got about 8 more months out of it. So that, I'll leave it up to you, right? Because there's no guarantee. Some of these, I've heard people run these things for 8 years. But that's very unusual, and likely if it was a 10-minute battery when it was new, if it gave you 10 minutes of time, it's likely only going to give you about 2 minutes of time. So even though it's working, it's probably not working to its fullest potential. So we want to make sure we hold the power button in and turn it off. We don't want to work on power with power on, and this must be unplugged from the wall unless you want to electrocute yourself. On the underside, there are 2 screws. There's one here and one here. We're simply going to remove those right now, and they're not very big screws, and they'll come out very, very quickly. There's the first one. There's your second one. Now this whole lid right here, it drops down towards the bottom, and then you pull it away, and that's going to expose the battery inside with your positive wire and your negative wire. Now sometimes you can grab on these wires and pull them and they'll come off. Other times you need to get some needle nose pliers and get them off of there. But if we take these off, and again, as a warning, these can be on really super tight, and you don't want to use a tool that digs into the insulation and exposes the metal. If you do, you might want to wrap it with electrical tape when you're done. Luckily for us, this one came off super easy, and then we can just slide the battery out. That's all that's holding the battery in, and this is the original battery that these Cyberpower UPSs come with. It's heavy. It's got all kinds of warnings on it. They can only be shipped a certain way. So these aren't something you just drop in the mail to your friend. Now, this is the replacement battery from a third-party manufacturer. I don't know anything about them. Typically, the third-party stuff isn't as good, meaning it probably won't have as good of a lifespan, or even though it's rated at the same power, it likely won't have it. But again, to recycle these, to put them back in use without any sort of dire consequences if the batteries go bad early or only provide 9 minutes of standby or operational power instead of 10, to me that's not a big deal. So if we take a look at what you get, these batteries are about $25 each, and if you're buying them in bulk, you can save a few dollars for each battery. And if we open up this box, you'll see inside it's got a little cardboard protection, or not cardboard, but styrofoam. And then we're going to take the battery out of the box. They give us some advertising here. And they've got little protective covers over the top of the connectors here. So this is our new battery, and I'm going to just set it right there. I'm going to put these little plastic connectors over the top of this battery. And as you can see, this UPS was functioning fine with this battery. This is not the one that was causing the problems, but it doesn't have much life left in it. I don't know exactly how much longer it's got, but because these batteries can leak, I'm going to just reuse this cardboard box, and this cardboard box will go into another cardboard box before it goes into my car to deliver it. As I mentioned, with 13 of these, if you can't lift 70 pounds, 75 pounds, at least get them to the place and bring 2 in at a time until you get your car emptied out. Because I don't want to make a separate trip every single time. All I need to do is slide the battery back in the same orientation that we took it out. It's going to slide in. Just gravity is what's when you put the lid back on. Understand this is the front of the unit. This is the bottom right here. So we're coming in from the front, so this battery is going to be sitting vertically when you have the UPS stood up, just like I had it. Very simply, we're going to reattach the red wire to the red connector, the black wire to the black connector, and then we put the cover back on. It's got little grooves in it. It's got like a little L shape. It's going to slide into a slot here. It goes pretty close to almost all the way on. It pushes forward and then slide it down. And then we just put the screws back in it to secure that back into place. That job is done. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. If I could see, there it goes. There's one. There's two. Now, in order to remind myself that I have changed the battery, remember now the battery is behind the faceplate, right, with the connectors facing down. I'm going to peel this label off, and we're going to replace that with one that has new battery May 2022, and another label that says replace every 3 years. It doesn't have to be 3 years on the dot. If you want to wait 3.5 years, if you want to roll the dice and wait for 4, maybe you could get 6, but statistically not likely. You can choose to be reactive or proactive for 25 bucks. I'd say get it done after 3 years, when, as soon as you have time. Don't wait for a problem. If it starts leaking, it can cause a lot more damage than you trying to eke out just a few more weeks or a few more months to whatever furniture it's sitting on when it leaks. Now I'm going to plug it back in so we can check the state of charge on this battery. It's obviously not going to be charged fully because it's new out of the box, and who knows how long it's been sitting. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the UPS now to power, and I will turn it around and turn the power on. And then we have a display here, and if I hit the display button a couple of times, it cycles through a lot of information. I want the battery state. Right there, it says it's at 87%. So just by leaving that in, plugged in, that will charge to 100%. We can start using it now immediately. If the beeping is going on because it lost power and you need this on battery, and the beeping's driving you crazy, there is a mute button right there to shut it up. I don't recommend you ever use it. It'd be like muting a smoke detector that's telling you there's a fire and you're choosing to ignore it. Unwise. But it is there. If you ever have to hit the mute button, I am going to suggest that you stop whatever you're doing, save your work, shut everything down, and then figure out what the problem is. I'm going to put this little piece of styrofoam back in there. And then this will be going off to the recycler with the others. But that's how easy it is to change the battery in one of these Cyberpower units. I think they're a great value. If you're in a situation, if you've ever been in a situation, or you're working on something and you haven't saved it in a while, and you've lost power, and you've lost your work, and even in the earlier days, Windows may not boot again. It was very easy for Windows prior to Windows 7 for Windows to just not boot up anymore, that the file system gets corrupted from an unexpected shutdown, improper shutdown. In other words, loss of power. So now not only have you lost your work, but now your computer won't boot up anymore. So stuff like this is critical for mission critical hardware like servers, networking hardware. Now for a network switch, a router, this could probably power those things for an hour or more because they are very low power draw. But on your computer, your monitor, you're likely looking about 10 minutes. Again, it depends on the size of the capacity of the battery. I'll report back when I hear back from my friends in a few years when they start having problems, so I can evaluate whether or not the Mighty Max battery is worth using again in the future. But this is something you have to ride it out and see what the lifespan is. And just testing one isn't really a good sample size. So, but it'll be interesting to hear back from my friends when they have a problem, because it is a question of when. And if it's 3 years or after, then great. If the company's still in business, I'll recommend them again and just keep changing the batteries out every 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And they can use these indefinitely. If, on the other hand, the battery only lasts a few months or under 3 years, when it needs to be replaced, we'll look for a different manufacturer and start the test again. But if it turns out that it was just the 1 out of 13, well, then I'm not too worried. But if it's 4 or 5 out of the 13, I won't buy the brand again. So I just have to roll the dice. I don't roll the dice with my clients. That's why we only buy new product with warranty. Once again, as a hobbyist or an enthusiast, you're somebody at home, who cares? But when it's a business and employees can't work and customers can't be helped, and especially if the problem's caused by the UPS because the battery wasn't replaced when it was supposed to be, it costs the company a lot more money than just replacing the unit. So better to be proactive than to be reactive in that scenario. All right, a few more contributions have come in. Let me give a few shouts out and say thank you to these kind folks. We've got Danny56 contributing $4.99. He says, hey, Kerry, I love your videos. Well, thank you, Danny. Welcome to Being Blue. Lana Dro says, what about a printer being plugged in on the surge only side? That's fine. Yeah, you just don't want to have on the battery side because it will, you should never be in an emergency where you've lost power, but I got to print something on my laser printer. It'll probably kill the unit, just absolutely kill the battery, and then might damage the laser printer. Inkjet printers aren't so bad, but I still would not plug in a printer on a battery side because no one should have to do an emergency print. It's all about saving your work, whatever you were working on, and shutting down your computer safely. So with this unit giving about 10 minutes with everything plugged in like that, that should be about 9 minutes more than you need. Danielle Emberley says, I found myself debating if I should get an APC computer where I do not need to keep any user data. Well, again, even if you are working online with like a Chromebook and you're saving everything to Google Drive, there's still a potential that the last thing you were working on didn't get uploaded in time, depending on what loses power, right? If it's the modem that loses power, in other words, if it's a circuit breaker in the house versus the whole neighborhood going out, when you're using one of this, at least you've got a few minutes of power to complete what you're doing. You'll know when your power goes out because all the lights go out. If you have an air conditioner running or a refrigerator running, the house gets super quiet and kind of eerie. You know, you don't hear the hum of the electric motors. And by the time you realized what's happened, if you don't have a battery backup, your data is likely gone, or at least the data you've changed since the last time you saved it. Grim Rank says, I did not know you could replace the battery. Absolutely. But whether or not you should, given the conditions, right? We don't know if this battery will last as long or will provide as many minutes of power. But it's $25. We're not going to use it in a mission critical scenario involving business, but to hand them out to friends who just want one, I've got to get rid of them, right? I've got 13 of them. I absolutely refuse to use a UPS. There is not a UPS in Studio A. There is not a UPS in Studio B. I will never use a UPS. I think they're not worth the money. However, I also live in an area where we very rarely have power outages, maybe once or twice a year. I've gone a whole year without a power outage. So it's to have a battery backup where I have to change the battery every 3 years. It will at best help me 6 times. I have a Synology NAS. The Synology NAS has lost power for one reason or another about 4 times in the years that I've owned it. It's never been a problem. So maybe it's luck, I don't know. I mean, it's plugged into a surge protector, and I have a whole house surge protector plugged into my, my power panel. Yes, you can buy whole home surge protection. So you're protecting your air conditioner, your dryer, your refrigerator, all your appliances. and it goes into the power panel on the side of your house. And if you just look up whole home surge protection, it looks just like a double gang size, I forget what they call that, double wide circuit breaker. So you just punch out a couple holes in your power box. You need a professional electrician to install it because you're looking at raw power right there coming into the house. All the power to the house has to be shut down, but the thing just literally plugs in. If it ever activates, it gives its life. So if there's a power spike, it triggers the surge before it goes to the rest of the house. And when it dies, like on the unit I have, I think it's by GE, the green LED on it will turn red. It will still allow power to flow through, so once power is restored, everything will come back on again. But any surge protection now has been defeated, and you'll need to replace the unit if you want to have surge protection again. So it is designed to die, to take the hit of the power surge, to protect your appliances and anything plugged in, your big screen TV, anything plugged in. So the whole house is protected through a power panel surge protector. And I use those in every building I'm in. They're fairly inexpensive, around $100. And typically an electrician will install it for you for around 75 bucks, maybe 100 bucks. And it takes them 20 minutes. I will not do it myself. It's too high voltage, it's too dangerous. And I wouldn't recommend you do it either unless you are willing to risk your life for it. Aside from that, do know that that's an alternative, and that's just for surge protection that offers no battery backup. David Kane contributes $5. He says, I have to troubleshoot Cyberpower UPSs every day through the ISPs we support, and people wonder why it beeps all the time. Yeah, well, it's beeping. Well, let me give you an example. Let's show how this works. If I'm looking for something I can plug in, like a lamp or something you can see if the power's on or off. I'm just trying to think what I've got around here that I can use to plug in. What can I use? Let me step in the other room and see if I've got anything I can plug in here. There's got to be something. There's got to be something I can plug in. Oh, I have an idea. I have an idea. This is a pretty low power draw USB charging unit, right? That's USB-C and just a little wall wart. And I use this to charge up speakers or flashlights, things of that nature. And so if I plug this in to the battery protected side, okay, right now we've got power running off the wall. And let me see, what can I use? What can I use to plug this in to see? I know what I can do. I've got a speaker back here. So normally, and by the way, this is a great little UPS USB charging speaker. It's got great bass, it's pretty loud. It's kind of difficult to hear any stereo separation, but it fills a whole room with sound. It's expensive. It's about $270, but you get what you pay for. It's got a little equalizer on top, and I'll do a review on this later, but I love this little speaker. Anyway, it's got about a 6-hour battery life on it. You can take it outside, take it wherever you want to go, Bluetooth it from your phone, control the volume from your phone, play whatever music you want, and it sounds fantastic. You wouldn't believe how good the sound comes from this. It's not weatherproof or waterproof. It's really designed for indoor use, and you can pair them together to have a left and a right if you want to. But when I plug this in, when I plug in the USB cable, it should give me a charge indication light, which may be very difficult for you guys to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on it here. Or maybe just move the cable. Can you see that orange light? Now, what happens if I unplug this cable from the wall? So I'm going to unplug it, and even though the battery's not fully charged yet, it still has some charge on it. And this thing should start screaming at us. There it goes. And you'll notice It made no difference. We're still charging. And I've got this unplugged. So this has no idea that we've lost power, because now the power is being provided by the UPS. And it's going to continue to beep at us until power is restored. So it's very easy to test these, to simulate what would happen if you had a power outage. Preferably wait until your battery is at 100% before you do that. Now it's telling us we've got 547 minutes left. We've got a very low power draw on this, but it's dropping rapidly because it hasn't really calibrated to the battery very well. And there's no way that we're going to get 10 hours. So it's kind of amusing, but it is self-adjusting, and after a while that'll become more accurate. You usually get about 10 minutes from, having a computer and other, monitor real things plugged into it. But if I were to shut the unit off, if I hold the button in, try again, hold it in. Okay, now that light has gone out. You notice that? So now we have lost power. So until then, this thing was blissfully ignorant. It had no idea that we lost power. Now if I plug this back in one more time, go back over here, plug it in, the unit still stays off because I manually turned it off by holding the power button in about 10 seconds. So just tap the power button, or rather hold the power button in until it comes on. Okay, and now it's got power again. This light is back on and the speaker is charging. So I was trying to find a light or something that would turn on and turn off, but that's the gist of it. And they're that easy to test if you don't believe. Is this really going to work? Now, if I had plugged the speaker into the surge protection side, on the other side of this UPS, then when we lost power, when I unplugged it, it would also kill the power here as well. This only is surge protection only on this side, and battery and surge protection on the opposite side. So be mindful of what you're plugging in where, so that you know what has battery protection and what does not. Let me put this away, and I'll get that big monster speaker out of the way. Yeah, I love this speaker. It's got a downward subwoofer. So right down here at the bottom, it just booms out across the ground. It's pretty awesome. And then when I turn it on, it's got a little night light, which drives me crazy, but I can hit the light button and turn that off. It's not RGB or anything. And it's a very low power draw. It doesn't seem to make any difference on the battery life if you leave it on or not. It doesn't go with the music or anything. It's not dimmable. It's just a decorative night light, I guess. But this is a pretty cool speaker and way too much money. But I like it, and I'll use it when I'm watching TV as my media speaker. And it sounds amazing to watch. Modern movies have such great sound that you may not realize if you don't have a good sound system to hear them. I just watched a kids movie, Sing 2, which has Bono from U2 playing one of the voices, and they do a lot of their own versions of modern music. The movie is basically one song after the next, after the next, after the next. So listening to it is as much important as it is to watch the movie. And listening to it on a good set of speakers, it sounds amazing. They did such a good job with that movie. Sing 1, I didn't care for, the original, but Sing 2, boy, that movie about had me in tears at the end. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age, but it was a really, really good movie, and I liked nearly every song they sang. I knew. There's a lot of 80s music and some modern music in there, and knowing that Bono was doing that voice, he did an amazing job. So anyway, squirrel moment. But David, thank you for your contribution as well. And Planet Cryos with a $10 contribution says, hope all is well and good. Just did a BIOS update on the hot dog build. I've got a Cyberpower UPS as well. It's a 900 watt one. Had it about 4 years. Great to have, and it will auto shut down the PC for you. Yes, but you've got to plug the USB cable in and load the Cyberpower software for the auto shutdown feature to work. Synology NASs have the software already built into them. So when you plug a Cyberpower or an APC UPS, through a USB cable into the back of your Synology NAS. It will auto-detect it, and the software is already there, which is pretty cool. And the software can do things like email you, if you're in charge of IT for a company and power gets lost, it'll kick off an email to you. I guess it's going to have to wait till after the fact, right? Until power comes back on to kick that email up. But there's a lot of options in there. Alan says he just got back from the Gulf in Alabama. Humidity was bad there, but temps were only around 78. Oh yeah, and you go to the southern United States, that humidity can be pretty thick. The most humid place I ever went to was Houston, Texas. Whew. I felt like I could push the humidity with my hands. It was the worst I'd ever felt. Very uncomfortable and sticky. I guess like anything, if you're there long enough, you get used to it. Oh, I knew somebody was going to ask me this question. What's the model of the Bluetooth speaker? Let me look it up real quick. We'll take a quick gander. See if I can find it. Let's see, it's a Bluetooth. What's it called? Hold on, let me step off camera for a second and see if I can read the name on it. It's a name I never heard of. I was kind of skeptical before I bought it. Well, I guess I'm going to need my glasses to read it because I can't see it. It's I see letters, but I can't make out what they are. They're a little fuzzy. All right, let me see if I can find it. It looks like it's called ABRAMTEK. ABRAMTEK. Whew, this one shows this is a second gen. It shows it's $329. So this must be an upgraded version. I want to say it was about $260, but it's 200 watts. And I will give you a link. Okay, so here's the link, and if you use my link, I make a commission, which is fairly decent on that amount of money. So rather than linking directly to it, I would prefer, it would be kind of you to use my link, since you're going to pay the same amount if you're going to buy it. But I really like this speaker a lot. I wasn't quite sure without it being in stereo what it was going to sound like, but this thing, like I said, I've got it in the main living room when I watch TV, and people across the street can hear it if I have the doors open, because, if it's a nice day. Yeah, so I've got to be careful. Sometimes it's a little too loud. But when I'm listening to music or watching a movie that's got a lot of music in it, I want to hear it no differently than listening to a stereo. Let me look back through the chat and see what I've been missing here. Lorna Dro says, having an APC several years ago saved my computer big time. It's just one of those things, you never know what's going to happen until it happens. So the question is, are you prepared for it? I always recommend, if you do buy a UPS, put a Post-it note on it, label it somehow with the date, the month and the year that you put the battery in. and then plan on about a 3 to 4 year battery life. Ken Schmidt says, thanks so much, Kerry. Going home to check my UPS. I don't remember when I bought it. Maybe overdue. You know, if you buy from Amazon, Amazon keeps the history of everything you've ever purchased. I can look back at my Amazon history to 1997. So if you bought the unit off Amazon, or even Newegg also keeps a history as well, and you can see when you purchased it. Unfortunately for me, I'm buying, 13 for one company and 12 for another company, and that doesn't help me to look back at my history because I don't know which company it was for. So I just have to label them, and hopefully that helps the next guy. If me and the company choose to go separate ways, then whoever is going to take over that job, it's helping them. And I would hope that a technician would do the same in case they leave and I end up getting the job. If I were to walk into a client's office who recently replaced their tech with me and we don't have a date, like I'm going to ask them, do you know when you bought the UPSs and if you've ever changed the batteries? Usually the answer is no. Then what I'll do is I'll put a label on it for the date that I started working on them, working with the company, and I'll say, I won't say anything, I'll just put the date. So let's say I start with a company today, and they have UPSs and there's no labels on them. I'm going to just go ahead and put May 2022 on them, and maybe put a question mark at the end. So I know that certainly by May 2025, they're going to be at 3 years, if not 6 years or 10 years for all we know. Sometimes you can get an idea of the model number of the UPS to get an idea of when they were available for sale. A lot of times they stop carrying a certain model and get it replaced. These Cyberpower units are still sold the same today as they were back when we bought them in 2018. And we were buying them back in, 2012, maybe even before that. But usually I just tell the clients, just replace the whole UPS. I'll take care of the recycling for you as a service for you. And then what I'll do is swap the batteries out, give them to friends. Like I said, that's my biggest problem sometimes is everybody's got one and doesn't want another one. And they're big, they're heavy, and they get in the way. And I'll never use one. Mark my words, I will never use a UPS. I think they're a waste of money. The only time I would use a UPS is, let's say I move and I'm in Michigan, and the place where I'm in Michigan, throughout the first year there, I'm losing power frequently. I will definitely get a UPS. Somebody like, Mike Smith from the Mike Tech Show, he loses power at his house in Philadelphia when they have the big storms. It happens a couple times a year. And he bought a diesel generator and had an electrician wire it up that can power his whole home off of diesel gas. Unfortunately, he didn't, if I remember correctly, he didn't maintain it. He didn't need it for over a year. Oddly, he didn't need it. Then when he went to use it, it wouldn't start when he needed it. And it turned out the gas had gone stale, and the unit had to be flushed out, I guess. Mike can tell the story with more accuracy. I'm paraphrasing, but ultimately when he needed it, it did not work because it wasn't maintained. So it's not one of, generators a bit more complex. They've got to get oiled and they've got to have fresh gas in them, and they should be run just like a car. You need to start them and run them just to make sure that, like a fire drill, you need to know it's going to work when you need it. And if it's out of sight, out of mind, you're sort of rolling the dice that it's going to kick in and work properly when the unexpected event happens. So those are very expensive. You're looking at several $1,000s plus the cost of installation and then ongoing maintenance, which isn't that much money, but just a hassle. Arbiter wants to know if anybody knows any good batteries for these. My Cyberpower has the original battery since 2014. Hey, these Mighty Max batteries might be great. I read the reviews on them. The problem is you just kind of have to wait it out and see. The question is, how much money do you want to spend? So for $25 with free shipping from Amazon, the link is in the video notes. I thought it was worth $25. If it lasts 25 months, that's $1 a month. and that would still be shy of the 3 years minimum I expect to get out of them. I do expect to get between 3 and 4 years. If you're beyond 3 or 4 years, I would recommend you, if you honestly think your unit is fine and doesn't need a battery, there's an easy way to test it. Unplug it from the wall while your computer and monitor are turned on, and then start a timer and see how long before your computer loses power. Could it damage your computer? Yeah, it could. Absolutely. But that's likely going to happen anyway, because if you continue to use your UPS with an old battery, because it's not giving you errors, so you're concluding in your head there must be nothing wrong, in all likelihood your battery may only have 30 or 40 seconds of life in it once you cut power. And that'll be how you know. Or you wait until you need it, and before you have a chance to save everything in order to react, it's already going to die on you before you have that chance because you were too cheap to replace the battery. I don't know what the logic is on that, but if it's over 4 years old, the amount of battery life you're going to get once power cuts off is going to be significantly limited for every year older the battery is, and it gets worse and worse and worse until you just get seconds out of them. In a best case scenario, this thing will start annoying you and beeping. In a worst case scenario, you'll just have random reboots and stuff happening for no apparent reason. So better to be, third time I'm going to say this, proactive rather than reactive. But the choice is yours, and you'll lie in bed that you made with the consequences of the decisions you make. It makes no difference to me. All right, just so we're clear, I'm not telling you what to do. BH Ringer says, do the replacement batteries have a higher milliamp hour than the originals? I believe they're exactly the same. I think they're 9 amp hours, and I think the originals are 9 amp hours. They're 12 volts, 9 amp hours. Let me see what the original battery says. They should be exactly the same. I believe I checked that when I was cycling through the options. Non-spillable. Yeah, tell that to the one that leaked everywhere. Yeah, 12 volts, 9 amp hours. They're exactly the same. I'm sure I can get one with higher amp hours if I want to spend more money. Ultimately, that's the difference between some of the Cyberpower models. You'll see if you click on the link in the video notes that takes you to Amazon for these. There's several models, and all that's different about them is the size of the battery capacity, even though the battery itself is the same physical size. It's like a flash drive. You know, one flash drive might be 8 gigs and another flash drive could be a terabyte, but you look at them, they're the same physical size, but they have different capacities. As a result, they have different prices. Regardless of the capacity, you still have the same lifespan. So I don't believe that adding more capacity is a good idea, because if you think that's just going to let you work on the battery longer, then I don't think you really respect what this is doing. This is really just there for you to save your work and safely shut down your computer. How much time will that take you to do? So buying yourself more time is just encouraging you to keep working, and then you're just going to lose power, negating the whole purpose behind why you had it. Paul Cleaver wants to know if this can be used as a generator. I suppose, yeah, you could use it for about a couple of minutes, depending on the power consumption of what you're plugging into it. Yeah, but a generator generates power, right? It's going to have an engine powered usually by diesel fuel, just like a car engine, for example, will generate its own power, generates power. This is just a battery backup. It doesn't generate power. The power is already generated in the battery. It's stored in the battery. The power that we're pulling right now is not only providing power to the items we're plugging in, but it's also charging that battery till it's 100% and keeping it that way. So a battery doesn't generate power. A battery only stores power. So technically, to answer your question, no, it can't generate power. But if we kind of look at it from the spirit of the question, Could I take this, unplug it, take it with me camping and plug something in it, like a television? I'd probably get about 6 or 8 minutes out of it, sure. If you want to go through all that trouble for a few minutes, you could totally do that. John Williams says he's got one surge protector on our electrical panel in our basement. Yeah. Bikeman says, or asks, is it a bad thing if I plug a power adapter into my UPS to power up an external drive sometimes? Oh, to power up an external drive. Sometimes I see a few sparks when I plug something in. That's not good. Probably the order of the plugging in is causing the sparks. So when you plug an adapter in, you should plug the adapter in first before you then take the adapter. Let me think about how I want to say this. Let me grab a power adapter and put it to visuals here. I'll just grab the same power adapter I had. Okay, so there's your standard, wall wart or power adapter. When I plug the power adapter in, I don't know how close you were paying attention, but I always do it the same way, so I don't think about it anymore, and I don't even think to tell you. But you plug the adapter in to the wall or into the surge protector before you plug the other end in. This should be plugged in after this. This goes in first. Why? Well, think about it. This has got no power in it. As soon as you plug it into 120 volts or 240 volts, depending on where in the world you are, it shocks the whole thing. It's, imagine you're just minding your own business and someone sends 120 volts through you. You're going to be jolted. That jolt may go through the wire and into the device, in the Bluetooth speaker, for example. And usually they have some absorption ability, especially with modern electronics. This is mostly a problem with older electronics to absorb those shocks. But go ahead and let the adapter take the shock. It happens in milliseconds, right? It's over. Then take the other end and plug it in, and you shouldn't see any sparks or anything. That's basic electric 101. I don't know. I guess they stopped teaching this stuff at school. When I was in high school, they used to teach electronics. They would teach kids about how power works and the pros and cons of how helpful power is and how dangerous power is. I didn't ask to take the class. As I recall, I had to take the class. I guess they don't teach it anymore. But that's how power works. It's always, ever since the invention of power. So I'm sure if you have that question, I'm sure others do too, so I'm glad you asked it. Patrick Rousseau says hello from Syracuse, New York. My friend Ron there says he uses his UPS to charge his cell phone. Oh yeah, it'll easily do that. Cell phones don't use much power at all. And keep looking here through the chat. Jim KJ3N says he's got a 1500 volt amp UPS that'll run his NAS for about an hour. And it's set to shut down when the battery gets to about 20%. That is an option you can set if you load the Cyberpower or APC. They're all basically about the same, and have a USB cable plugged in. Now in Jim's case, that's the only thing he's got plugged into it. There's no way it's running an hour with multiple things, but just a NAS all by itself. And that hour that he's getting is going to become 55 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, the older the battery gets. So keep that in mind. Till eventually it'll just be minutes or seconds before the battery dies. Even if it indicates the battery's full, it'll just deplete very, very quickly. Mikolaj wants to know if a UPS is safe. Can it burn, explode? Well, anything with a battery can burn and explode. We typically, you remember the whole Samsung Galaxy Notes that were exploding? A lot of vape pens people were buying, these off-brand Chinese-made knockoffs that were blowing up in people's pockets, causing third-degree burns. That's usually lithium-ion batteries. This is a lead-acid battery, if I'm not mistaken. This is like a car battery. But they even tell you when you work on a car battery to wear goggles because the fumes that a car battery puts off are ignitable. And so if you're connecting or disconnecting the wires and there's a spark, that can cause an explosion and the battery acid will get in your face and blind you for life. That's no joke. This is a much smaller version of a car battery, but the same dangers apply, and that's why I don't believe the UPS will ship batteries anymore of any style, whether they're nickel cadmium, lithium ion, or just lead acid. To the best of my knowledge, the United States Post Office will not ship batteries. There was in the news, there was a big cargo ship that had like 1,000 cars on it being shipped over, Porsches and Volkswagens and Mercedes, I think, maybe some BMWs. And the ship caught fire and sunk. And all those new cars that were coming to America are now at the bottom of the ocean. Brand new cars, over 1,000 of them. You can imagine how big the ship was. What do you think? And I don't know that they know what the problem was, but if you had to guess, what do you think caused that fire? I'll tell you what I think. I think some of those cars were electric cars. They had lithium-ion batteries, and something happened, and that was the catalyst. Tesla is very proud of their cars containing any fires that may occur. Fires are likely to happen if the battery is damaged, such as in a car accident. And the fires burn very, very hot. So when my client who wanted these, that was one of the questions they asked was, could these explode? Yes, they can. They're not likely going to, but if you bang them around a lot or you use them improperly, absolutely. Or if there's a defect in manufacturing, more than likely you'll see smoke come out of it. But if you're away for the weekend and the thing's plugged in as it would be, it probably will start small. And if left to continue to burn, it's likely, depending on what flammable objects you have around it, you might come back to an office completely burned to the ground. That is an inherent risk with anything that has a battery, including a vape pen. Yeah, all batteries, every single battery has that potential. Smaller, lower voltage batteries, like the little batteries, AA, AAA batteries, or those little button cell batteries, those are so small and have such little material, they generally will form a lot of acid. They don't generally catch fire, but even those 16550 lithium ions, those absolutely can catch fire, and it's bad. Now, in my career, I've never seen it happen, but it's been in the news quite a bit. And it usually happens from cheap knockoff batteries. Although, Samsung was plagued with their, was a Galaxy Note a couple years ago. Is it the Note 8? But that's not likely a mistake they'll ever make again. Something in the trying to think what it's called, the supply chain where they were sourcing their batteries. Somebody went cheap somewhere. Whether it was factory authorized or not, it was all financially motivated. So when I'm selecting batteries, like when I pick this Mighty Max battery, you better believe that's my number one concern is this one of these cheap knockoff batteries that's going to cause a fire? And I look at the reviews and I see how old the reviews are. If it's a brand new product, I'm not going to be first. So I want to see other people that were ahead of me that have used it and what their experience was. And that's a valid concern. The bigger the battery, If there's going to be a fire, it's going to be a bigger fire, and those fires are very difficult to put out. Fire departments will struggle to, like, if you've got an electric car on fire, no matter what they pour on it, it's likely just going to keep burning until it's burned out. They're very, very difficult to put out, but not very likely to happen unless the batteries are damaged, or as I mentioned, you've got some cheap knockoff battery from China somewhere that was super cheap, and you wanted to roll the dice. Planet Cryos with $6 contributed says, what you're saying is using a fork to test the outlet is a bad idea? I have to challenge the 2-finger test instead. Joking, everyone. Yeah, it's funny until you do it, right? Don Allen contributes $10, says, looks like you're out of Gatorade again. Well, it's still there. It's getting a little warm, but thank you, Don, and thank you, Planet Cryos, for supporting the channel. Finally, one last thing I want to do today is I want to follow up on the RGB cooler I put in on my sister's computer, that Be Quiet computer that I did all the work, but realized we didn't have the modular cable. I reached out to my sister. She can't find it. Remember I said this is always the case. It may not even be her fault. It may be that I didn't give it to her, because I loaned her the computer, and then I told her she could keep it. And I don't know when I loaned it to her if I gave her the motherboard box with the cables. So I have to go back to Studio A and check. More than likely I did do that. So I don't want to point any blame at this point, but this is regardless. Modular power supplies are the bane of my existence. I hate them. Now, we ended up going on Amazon and ordering the power cable we needed. It's only a couple of bucks. It took about 3 days before I got it. So you can imagine if you're a computer repair technician and you're driving on site to a client location, you cannot complete the job until you have that power cable. So you have to tell the customer, you're going to be down for however many days it takes for me to receive that part in the mail. You'll owe me for the part. In this case, it's a few dollars. And then I'm going to bill you for a second trip back out here again. So it's just stupid. It's just like, it's something done for looks and to reduce the amount of cable management. So if you're going to use a modular power supply, be sure you put your cables away somewhere, because it might be years before you need them. In the meantime, the cable came in, I plugged it in, and let me put the computer up here and show you what it looks like. I've not done the cable management on it. I've been so backed up, and you know, I really hate this kind of cable management. It takes a lot of time to go through and sort all this out. Plus we have this big RGB fan controller that's got to go somewhere. It's included some double-sided sticky tape, and my sister said she would handle it. So I said, great, not going to try and change your mind. So in this case, and because it's my sister and it's not a customer, I'm going to go ahead and just lay this in and slap the panel on it. These panels just clip in, they don't use any screws or anything, so it won't snag in any cables. And if she never gets around to it, I don't care. It's not mine. But hopefully, you know, she'll make it look nice. From the front, you can see it looks fantastic. This is a $260, 280 millimeter, 280 or 240 Corsair cooler. I've not even installed the software on it. I'm going to let her do that. I have been so busy. I just don't have time to play around with these toys. But it looks fantastic. I ran Prime 95 on it for 25 minutes. And this is a 3950X AMD. This sucker gets hot. This cooler runs better than the cooler that was on it. And it's dead quiet. Let me hook it up and I'll show you. Let's see, we've got power. I've got the keyboard, the mouse. I need a video cable. Here we go. I've updated the Windows updates, the video driver. NVIDIA just released another driver last week. It's like 800 megs for video driver these days. It's crazy. Wonder how many floppies that would take. Let me just plug in the keyboard and mouse. I keep leaning against the counter and pulling on my microphone cable. Let me just turn this on. We don't really need to see the desktop. You just need to see the cooler and how that looks. You see, it's got an LCD screen on the cooler, just like this one does. This one's an NZXT. Do you hear that sound? What I think that sound is the chipset fan. Now, I warned everybody when this motherboard came out. The X570 motherboards universally, as far as I know, have these little chipset fans. And in the 90s, we used to have chipset fans. And over a period of time, and especially if you're a smoker, those chipset fans start to fail. And they make a grinding sound, and they might stop altogether. And they're kind of a pain to find them, because they're not really a standard. This chipset fan is a 4-wire, actually that one I don't know. I've got another board with a bad chipset fan. It's a 4-wire fan. And those fans, I think I got the right one, I'm not sure, but they were $20 a piece. A modern motherboard shouldn't have a fan on the chipset, in my opinion. So you can see what this looks like. Right now it says liquid temp 25 degrees Celsius. That's not the CPU temp, that's the temperature of the liquid. If I pull up the case, you'll see the fans are RGB on the radiator. And you can change this display. Like I said, I could have that little spinning cube put in here. I could put my face in there. I can change this to Fahrenheit. I can put all kinds of different information on here, and that's controlled through Corsair's software, just like this one is controlled through NZXT software. But they're basically the same thing, like comparing a Ford and a Chevy. They're both about $250, $260. They're not cheap, and this one, in this case, runs really well. I took a screenshot of the Prime 95 results with my phone, and oh, Kelly Stewart sent an Amazon gift card for $50. Thank you, Kelly Stewart. Appreciate that. Yeah, it looks like the fans are these funky, I was going to show you a picture of it, but there's a lot of little fans that are used like for cooling CPUs and like a laptop or an Intel NUC. They look very similar, but they're different. Some fans have 2 power cables. That one has 4 power cables. This one I'm not sure about, but it likely needs to be replaced. Now, my sister says she leaves the computer on 24/7, and that grinding sound only occurs at startup for a few seconds, so we'll probably just ignore it. The fan does turn, and it seems fine, so maybe a lubrication issue, but if you just lubricate it, it's likely just going to happen again. Better to replace it. I know I took a screenshot. Where did it go? Okay, it's not there. Let me take a look here. Is that it? Okay, so I'm going to bring this up to the camera and show you. But this was after 25 minutes. These were the results. So our max temp that we ever hit was 72.8 Celsius. After 25 minutes of slamming it 100% on Prime 95, that's incredible. The fact that we never even got into the 80s at all, far from it. I'm very impressed with the cooler. It is expensive and it's pretty, but most importantly, it does work well and it is silent. The fans are very quiet. So overall, if you've got the money and you can afford it and you like the RGB and you like the little LCD screen on it, have at it. It's a great cooler. Planet Cryos just contributed $25. He says this may or may not apply to you, but with an ASUS motherboard and with downloading the Armory crate, check the apps installed and see if the Patriot RGB software was installed. This has been causing system crashes and IQ software not to work properly. That's a good reminder. Yes, the Patriot software is like some default that gets installed. I think PC World or Maximum PC did a whole article and trying to figure out where did the software come from? Why do we have it when we don't have any Patriot RAM? But if you Google it, there's an article about that if you want to learn more about it. So again, I appreciate the reminder. System's running rock solid. It's not crashing at all. But I have not loaded the IQ software. My sister is pretty technically capable. I asked her to let me do this. She was going to do it herself. I wanted the content, but she offered to pay for the cooler. And I was like, I will pick it up and drop it off. She lives about a half an hour away, and I want to get it back to her tonight, so I wanted to make this video. I also want to give her this UPS and get it out of here because I've got to stop by my clients who's over on that side of town and pick up 5 or 6 more. And then I'll probably do an Amazon video showing the battery replacement and an Amazon video reviewing the Cyberpower unit. So I have individual separate content over at Amazon apart from YouTube, and you can watch that content by going to my Amazon store, which is just amazon.com, but you'll put a / with the word shop and then a / with my name, amazon.com/shop/Kerry Holzman, and you'll see my Amazon store, which contains links to all the products I use in my videos, my tools, the Lazy Susan, all that stuff is there, and my video reviews and my Amazon Live videos as well. Smaller, much smaller audience at Amazon, and about 30 times the amount of money than YouTube, way, way higher. So I want to make more Amazon videos as soon as I get caught up with my workload here. I'm not giving up YouTube, but I definitely want to do more for Amazon because for now anyway, their incentive financially is very generous, and it may not last forever. So if I don't do it soon, if I keep putting it off, I'll miss the opportunity. So that's its own entity with its own videos, and if you're interested, check it out, and you can hit the follow button and follow me on Amazon as well. I'm really digging Amazon. They've been very, very kind to me. Gary Tatum contributes $20. He says, do they make bulk cable and crimp-on connectors for making your own modular cables? Not that I'm aware of, because they're not all the same. Like usually when you're putting on a when you're crimping a cable, you're crimping it to an industry standard, whether it's an Ethernet cable, an old school landline connector, even fiber optics, they all connect the same. Power supply manufacturers devise their own proprietary designs and are likely to require royalties from any other manufacturer that duplicates their design. So for that reason, you would have to do your research and to have a pretty good electrical background to understand how to run the cables, because like on these modern power supplies, all the cables are black, so you can't tell which one's pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, which cable goes where. They're not color coded. You'd have to trace them out to figure it out. There are custom cable mod companies that will make you a custom cable. You tell them what color you want, if you want it braided, if you want it sleeved, and what the manufacturer and make of the power supply is, and they can do it for you. But no, I am not aware of a do-it-yourself one. I think that would be strictly for a very, very small percentage of people that would have the confidence and the knowledge. And I don't think you'd use the tool that often. How often are you? Why would you buy an $80 crimping tool when you could pay a company to just make the cables for you for half that price? And then what? So unless you're doing it for a living, chances are you're going to use that crimping tool couple days and it'll go in a drawer for years after that. It's possible one exists. I've never seen or heard of such a thing. Let me grab a cold Gatorade here and we'll wrap up today's video. If you have any questions for me, please ask in the chat. I'll do my best to provide you an answer or a direction on where you can find an answer. I don't know everything. I barely know anything, but I do how to find the answers. Usually, I can give you an idea where to look. Thank you, Gary, for your contribution. And Planet Cryos, thank you for your contributions as well. Okay, Cordius Technology says, didn't you and your niece build a gaming system, and how's it holding up? Yes, when she was going off to college, we built a computer together here on the channel. She had some problems with it, and she does technical support for the college, but she's not a real technical person, but more than the average student. And she got herself in over her head on something and was out for a visit and asked if she could bring it so I could take a look at it. And it was just a cabling nightmare. You know, it was one of those situations where I guess it was important to her to get it running. And so, you know, she cut free a lot of the cable ties and pulled stuff and replaced stuff, hooked it back up without any cable management. And then it never quite worked well. So I would imagine, why cable manage it, right? So then she brought it to me and I had to basically disassemble all of it. And as I recall, it needed a clean Windows 10 installation, and some of the cables weren't necessary. Like she had cables going to stuff that she had pulled. So I cleaned it up. It was a really easy job. It was just, you know, I think there were like 13 or 14 new BIOSes on that board because it was a Ryzen system that we did, an early one. And so I had updated the BIOS for her, a clean install of Windows 10 with all the latest drivers and updates and chipset drivers and optimizing Windows 10, and then redid the cable management for her. And it's been good ever since. That was done in a sort of like, hey, we're coming out tomorrow and we're going to be out for 48 hours. I didn't have time to make a video out of it, so it was just get it done and get it out as quickly as possible. So good question though, thank you. It's nice when I have viewers who can refer back to videos from years ago. Tells me you've been here a while. I appreciate you. I'm looking through the chat to see if there's any questions I can answer. I'm going to wrap this up here in about 15 or 20 minutes because I have to get this loaded up and driven across town. We're still on the tail end of rush hour here in Phoenix, so I'm stalling until I'd like to leave after 7 o'clock in the evening. Rush hour in Phoenix runs from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So after 7, the roads are much nicer. Also, the sun goes down and it was what, 97, 98 degrees Fahrenheit today. Once the sun goes down, it'll drop down into the 80s and maybe into the upper 70s late at night. Much more pleasant to drive in. So for those reasons, I do any sort of errands I have to run usually between 10 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. 3 p.m. rush hour starts. The morning rush hour is like 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. So you just have this little window between rush hour, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends in the Phoenix metropolitan area, they shut down the freeways in numerous locations, about 7 or 8 locations across all the freeways, to do various road construction projects. So I don't like to go across town on the weekends. If I am going to, I'm going to load up Waze, W-A-Z-E. If you don't use it, it's free from Google. And even if you know where you're going, it's nice to have it on your phone because it will tell you if there's an accident ahead, if there's an object on the road ahead, if there's a car broken down on the side of the road coming up, if there's an officer spotted, checking for speeding cars. Waze users report this information to each other and it just pops up automatically. And if there's road construction or any sort of degradation in traffic flow, Waze automatically routes you around it. I have made the mistake of not believing Waze and thinking I knew better, and then I found out why when it was too late for me to change my route and got stuck in traffic that was easily avoidable if I'd have just listened to what it told me. It's completely free for your Apple or your Android phone, and it's called WAZE, and it's totally free. So if I'm going anywhere on the weekend where I have to get on a freeway in Phoenix because they're just randomly shut down everywhere, I check the route before I leave. Sometimes it's not closed, the freeway's not closed going one direction, but it can be closed going the other direction. And I have made that mistake where I didn't check Waze, and I'm like, I'm just going to jump on the freeway and go, and then end up getting stuck on the freeway for an hour in a sea of cars to go somewhere that should have taken 20 minutes. And all I had to do was take a surface road, and then maybe it would have taken 28 minutes. But instead, I was just basically parked on the freeway for an hour. So I cannot speak highly enough about Waze on my phone. And if you have Bluetooth in your car, pair it up to the Bluetooth, play Spotify or something, and you can listen to your music, and when Waze has an announcement, it'll play on top of the music or stop the music so it can talk and you can hear it, and then go back to playing the music again. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. It's free. When I drive to Michigan, Waze all the way. Yeah, I punch in the final destination, for going from a specific address in Phoenix to a specific address in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it routes the whole course, tells me how many hours of driving that'll be. Have a good trip. Tells me, it routes if I want to go around toll roads, if I want to avoid toll roads, just push the button. On the way back from Michigan, I decided last year, to see what happens if I avoid toll roads. I don't like driving through Oklahoma. It's a very long state. It seems like I'm in it forever. The weather, it can be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summertime, and it's humid, and the cops are everywhere all the time. On a road trip, if you're driving through Oklahoma, if you're gonna get a ticket, it's gonna happen in Oklahoma. I don't know, they just, in my experience, are very, very heavy on traffic enforcement. So Oklahoma's, it's a toll road, the Will Rogers Turnpike, I think. And anyway, I told it to avoid turnpikes, and it took me around through like Kansas City, all the way around, which was a very small road. Certainly nothing I would want to do with an electric car, because there wouldn't be chargers for a long way. But, certainly gas stations like normal. And it was a much less hectic drive because there were fewer cars. And I got to see places like Liberal, Kansas, which is not liberal. Just places I never heard of in these little tiny towns, and it was kind of cool driving back that way. Usually, I'm in a hurry. Let's get there. Let's get vacation started. And then usually I'm in a hurry to get back. I got to get back to work. But last year I said, for once, I want to take a different, slightly slower route. It might have added 90 minutes to a 27, 28-hour drive. So percentage-wise, it's not much. And stop seeing the same country back and forth. It gets boring. So to take a different route and to see new sights, even driving through Kansas City was cool. I hadn't been to Kansas City in forever. It was beautiful. It was. I just remember Kansas City being very rural, very, very much country-like. And we were in Kansas City probably around midnight, and it was lit up like Las Vegas. I was like, this is Kansas City? Holy cow. Didn't even recognize it. So makes the road trip more enjoyable. That's the whole point. If you want to get there quick, jump on a plane. I mean, if plane travel was bad before the pandemic, I mean, I couldn't stand it then. There's no way I'm jumping on a plane right now. But, enjoy the drive. And we certainly did, and that was a great route. And Waze took us all the way. Madi Yoel joins us. He contributes $5. Hey, there's John Wilson. There he is. I see you now, Jack. Hey, thank you again, Jack, for your very generous contribution the other day. I appreciate you. If you're in the chat and you see John there, tell him hello. Let's see if I can add a link to that speaker in the video notes while we're live. Let me see if I can, trying to figure out how I can do that while I'm live. It's a little tricky on this end of things. I can't do it from here. Let me step into the other room for a second, and I'm going to add the link for that. I'm surprised so many of you are interested in a $300 speaker. I don't know that it's worth $300. It's a good speaker, though. I think around $250 is what it should be, but this may be a newer version. I mean, it's saying second gen. I don't think I bought second gen, and I don't think I paid $300 for it, but let me step in the other room, and I can use the computer in there, and I'll add the link to the video notes, because I'd hate if you bought it and didn't use my commission link, because that'll make me a few bucks, you know? So I'm going to step off camera for a second, and you can look at the pretty lights on the computer there. And there's about a 90-second delay between when I talk and when you hear me. So if you have any questions for me, we've got a few minutes left. I want to wrap this up before 7 o'clock, which is a little less than 15 minutes away. So I can run this computer over to my sister, and I'll bring her the UPS as well. And I'm just in the other room where I've got my Dell XPS laptop that I use when I'm working out sponsorship deals or emails or messages. It's really where the work gets done. And what I can do is I can edit messages. It's really where the work. Yeah, that works. Let's see. I have to go to Amazon, and I've got to find that speaker. Okay, there's the speaker. And then I'll just say, we'll copy this. And then I'll edit the video notes, so I have to go to, let's see, what's it under? I think it's under live video. And then I have to edit. It's going to let me edit it while it's live. I think it will. And then I'll put it right above the Acronis offer. Remember, we've got that 40% off of Acronis until May the 15th. And I can't speak highly enough about the Acronis backup and cloning software. It's all going to save your bacon one time for you to realize it's worth every penny of anything they charge. So to get 40% off is a great deal. Now, if you check the video notes now, you might have to refresh the page, but you should see a link for that ABRAMTEK speaker there now. And again, I appreciate using my link so that I make a small commission. You won't pay any more for it. It makes no difference as far as your side of things goes. But and I don't see who buys anything. I can only see what was purchased. So if somebody says, "Hey, are you getting the commission for the thing I bought?" First of all, there's got to be about 24 hours after you make the purchase before the list gets updated. And then you've got to tell me what you bought. And then I can look on the date and see if that was purchased, but I can't tell that it was any specific person who did it. Or if there were multiple units purchased, if it shows 5 were sold. I don't see never do I see who purchased. And in the Amazon commissions, they're usually delayed by 30 or 60 days because you have a return period, right? So Amazon's not going to kick me back a commission until after your return period has expired. So they know you're not going to return the unit. And then it gets put into a queue to get paid at the next payment cycle. So that could be like 60 days. So that, if you're curious, that's how that works. With the Acronis 40% off, you've got to use my coupon code, Kerry Holzman 2022. No spaces. It's all crammed together as one big word. And that will give you 40% off of whatever Acronis product you want to purchase. If you already subscribe to Acronis, you can use the coupon code to add 12 more months to your subscription at the discounted price. It's a great deal. I really appreciate the folks at Acronis are doing this for us. And Acronis just introduced remote access software, which I'm going to take a peek at. So we might be hearing more from Acronis with other products, specifically this remote access software, if I think it's something that's worthy of bringing to your attention. But I'll investigate that and explore those options once this campaign with Acronis is done. We still have the deals going on with Windows 10, Windows 11, Office 2016, Office 2019, Office 2021, 30% off, use the coupon code CARRY. And what else? RoboForm, always 30% off at roboform.com/carry. Because you're doing the /carry at RoboForm, no coupon code is necessary. And that's always 30% off with that /carry. So I'm doing everything I can to save you guys money for products that I use myself, that I buy myself at full price, and I think they're a good deal. So to get it at a discount for you guys, well, basically, none of these companies came to me. I get companies all the time. They want, hey, will you do a deal with us? Will you do a deal with us? Acronis didn't come to me. RoboForm didn't come to me. And the VIP CDK deals didn't come to me. I went to them. I said, hey, I'd like to partner up with you guys. I like your product, but you got to do something for my audience. If you won't do anything for my audience, never mind. And they'll say, well, we'll pay you this much. I go, I don't, that's fine, but what are you going to do for my audience? Well, we'll give them this discount. And then I Google the discount and find out that's the discount all the YouTube content creators offer their audience. And I go, hey, you offer the same discount to all these content creators. I need something special for my audience. It doesn't have to be forever, just a limited time. I was interested in working with a VPN who I won't name. And they said, well, that's the discount we offer. I said, okay, but you have to understand, I have a highly targeted and a highly engaged audience. If you want to treat them the same way you treat all other audiences, I'm not interested in doing business with you. I'm not asking you to give me the same deal. I can go to Commission Junction and sign up for those basic deals, just like anybody. I need my audience to know that we're doing something just for them, for a limited time, just for them. No, we don't do that. That's what they told me. We don't do that. Okay, bye. So I was going to recommend the VPN. It's a VPN I use myself, but I don't want to mention their name, and I don't want to promote them in any way, shape, or form. So just because you see a sponsorship here doesn't mean I'm a sellout. I have rules, and the rules have to do with quality and value, both from the product, the manufacturer, and they have to value you. And if they're going to value you the same as every other content creator's audience, don't do us any favors, right? If you can get the same deal at my channel, you can go get somewhere else on somebody else's channel, I'm not interested in it. Now, when we do deals for a long term, like RoboForm is always 30% off. The CDK deals is always 30% off. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find that somewhere else. But the point is, I make that available 12 months a year. That's a Acronis deal and deals like sometimes with RoboForm, we run a very limited discount for a small period of time. That I guarantee is only for you guys. There's no overlapping of it. It's just for you guys. And that is absolutely important to me when I make a deal, that they've got to do something for you. And you'll be surprised how many companies are just saying, no, this is our policy. I go, well, if it's policy over profit, have a nice day. Because they're going to lose thousands and thousands of dollars. And worse, you guys don't get a deal. So everybody loses because of their pig-headedness, their stubbornness. Let me look and see if there's any questions I have missed, and we can wrap this up. We're about 5 minutes away from the end of the show. So if you've got something to say, if you've got something to ask, speak now. Paul, thank you for sharing my Amazon link for the speaker. It is in the video notes now. I'd love to demonstrate the speaker for you, but with copyright being as policed as it is on Amazon, even on stuff that's public domain, as well as the fact that if you're listening on crappy speakers, it's not going to sound any better than what your speakers sound like. It's not possible for me to demonstrate these speakers properly without you actually being in the room to hear them. So both sides, whether it's copyright issues or just the sound quality of your own speakers, or your speakers could be way better than these for all I know, right? Depending on how much of an audiophile you are. So either way, there's really no way for you to hear the sound quality from my microphone setup and your speaker setup. But Amazon is easy to do returns on, so if you buy the speaker and you don't like it, just make sure you hold on to the box and everything, and you know Amazon's customer service will let you return that. Just make sure you're using Amazon Prime and you won't have any problems. Not that you have to have Prime. Amazon always has good customer service, especially when you're spending that kind of money. But Prime guarantees it, that's all. Boss says he'd like to see a RoboForm special where it's more than 30%. We do that about once or twice a year. We'll run like 50 or 60% off of RoboForm. If you just simply look at the history on this channel, typing RoboForm in the search engine for my channel here on YouTube, you'll see we've offered that in the past. We don't do it very often, otherwise it wouldn't be a deal. That would just be the everyday price. So, but we visit that occasionally. So stay tuned to the channel, you will see that. You will see it in the future, I am sure. I have a great working relationship with Cyber Systems. Those are the people who make RoboForm. They're great people. Of all my sponsors, they have been the most supportive. They've been looking out for me in a way that no sponsor ever has before. I have no words for that. A lot of sponsors, they want to get you to work for as little as possible. We want to give you the least we can give you and have you do the most we can get you to do. The folks at RoboForm are not like that. You know, they're more likely to say, we're not paying you enough, let's bring your commission up a little bit. Which of course motivates me to want to remind people to buy it, because not only do I use RoboForm every single day, and I've been using it for about 15 years, the fact that they look out for me is, I've just never experienced that from a sponsor before. Usually it's a very cold contract. I'll do this and you do that. And if I do anything above and beyond that, they go, hey, thanks. So it's pretty unusual that a sponsor goes above and beyond and looks out for me. I've just never had any sponsor do that before. I've had to chase after sponsors to get paid. Like, they make all their money and I'm like, hey, you gotta write me a check? And I hate having to ask to get paid. We had a deal, why aren't you looking out for me? Why aren't you reaching out to me and say, hey, did we pay you yet? For my contact. So, but that's pretty normal. The fact that the people at RoboForm there, Simon, who we've had on the show, that thoughtfulness and consideration has created a loyalty with me, what you can just imagine. That means more to me than I have words for, because it's completely unexpected and I didn't ask for it, but boy, I sure do appreciate it. The Greek with a $10 contribution. Thank you so much to the Greek. And one last quick go through here on the chat room. Jason says speakers are subjective. New speakers require a burn-in period, a week or so, then a few weeks of listening. Yeah, somebody might say that. Somebody else will say, I don't know what you're talking about. The speakers sounded good as good the day I bought them as they do today. Some people will say speakers degrade over time. Some people, look, it's like eating something. What you find delicious, I might find disgusting. When it comes to how things feel, it's very difficult to review. That's why you don't really see me reviewing headphones, speakers, keyboards, mice, monitors. They're all subjective. What monitor do you recommend? I say, you go to the store, look at the monitors, see which one looks good to your eyes, that's the size you want, at the price you want, with the warranty you want, and that's the one you should buy. Or maybe write that information down, or look it up on your phone while you're at the store and read the reviews at places like Newegg and Amazon. How something feels, how something tastes, it's not for anybody to advise you, because unless they know you really well, I don't know your preferences. These aren't objective facts. These are feelings. And I just have one feeling, so I'm not a good person to talk about other people's feelings. People say, hey, you hurt my feelings. I say, you hurt my feeling. I just have one. I think it's funny. Anyway, it's 7 o'clock, so I think we're going to wrap it up. I don't see any other question here. Yeah, Master Singleton says the same goes for TVs and projectors. Exactly, exactly. Robert says anything perceptive is subjective. I love that expression. I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to turn you blue for that. That's a thinker right there. Anything subjective, anything perceptive, not perspective, anything perceptive is subjective. That should be a good title for a video talking about keyboard reviews or monitor reviews. And well, I'm happy to share my preferences with you regarding what keyboards I like or what mouse I like. I'm not expecting you to like them. Sometimes people ask me, well, what keyboard do you like? And I'll tell you. But I'm not telling you because I think you're going to agree. I don't care. Whether or not, say I'm eating something. I'm like, oh, that looks disgusting. I'm like, oh, it's delicious. I don't care if you agree. It doesn't change my experience, right? But when I talk about things like UPSs, like we did today, or this cooler, I can objectively tell you how it performs and what your reasonable expectation should be for length of time before failure, cost, and what to expect as far as performance goes. So at the very least, all I'm trying to do is set your expectations to be in the range. Like I say, these batteries, 3 years, you might get a little more. These coolers last 3, 4, 5 years, and you're gonna have to replace these liquid coolers for a number of reasons. Primarily, the pumps wear out. Now, a more expensive cooler, like this one's $260, maybe it's got a longer life, time will tell. That NZXT cooler in the streaming computer here, that's been in there for, ooh, gosh, I wanna say it's been about a year. But another 2 years or so, I wouldn't be surprised if we start having heating issues. It's not a guarantee though, right? We're just statistically working with a large number of products. I'm more likely to see a failure if I'm doing dozens and dozens of them. In this case, I only have that. I've got 2 NZXT coolers. The other one's in the Xenos build. I still need to get back to that one of these days. And then we've got the Corsair version. NZXT was first. And then Corsair said, hey, we can do that too. They both are very good coolers. Very, very good. Very expensive. But I would have a hard time picking between them. I like the NZXT cooler a little better because the Corsair cooler LCD screen just snaps on. I don't like that because it's easy to fall off. You can pull it off. It's like it's an afterthought, whereas the NZXT cooler was designed from the get-go with that screen. So for my personal preference, I'd like that design better. But they both work really, really well. Master Singleton says, thanks for another great stream. This is why for mechanical keyboards, I DIY them more than buying pre-built. Yeah, well, see, for people like yourself, when you can, design your own keyboard with the color of buttons you want, the types of mechanical switches you want, how much downward pressure you want, anti-ghosting, there's another feature I can't think of, whether or not you want macro keys, all of that is for the right person. For most people that own a computer, they don't want to get involved in that. Just give me a keyboard and, unless the keyboard's absolutely horrible, it's pretty rare I hear anybody complain about their keyboard. Even the keyboards that come when they buy they're included, like an HP or a Dell, you never hear anything about them, not from an average consumer. Very rarely. Being particular about the keyboard is usually, in my experience as a tech, It's about 1 out of every 100 people I talk to cares about that. And they care a lot. And the other 99 couldn't care less. Like, as long as it's a keyboard and it works. You know, they might have strong feelings about those ergonomic keyboards, those split keyboards. But it's just because of how awkward they are to use, not because the buttons are hard to press. Is a DOS keyboard worth the money? Well, only you can decide that. I can't tell you if something's worth the money. No idea. SJ Miyota with a $5 contribution says, I have the same Cyberpower UPS and I'm going to enjoy this show. Well, thanks. Be sure that you can rewind this video, even right now while it's live, and go back to the beginning and see what you've missed. That is going to wrap it up for me for today. My thanks to the Greek and SJ Miola, along with Mario L, Gary Tatum, Planet Cryos, Don Allen, David Kane, Danny56 and Gaming44, Paul Cleaver and Paul Carroll, as well as Find Me in Hawaii, who contributed our first contribution during the live feed today. And prior to going live, a shout out and super thanks for the very generous John Jack Wilson's contribution. And of course, Kelly Stewart in his Amazon gift card that he sent. He sent quite a few the last couple weeks, so very much appreciated. Hope you're doing well. Hope all of you are doing well. Stay safe. I hope to be back with even more content tomorrow. I've got a ton of stuff to get through, so it's not what I'm going to film. It's not if I'm going to go live. It's what subject am I going to choose, because I've got about 40 things to pick from. I don't know if it's 40. It's just a lot. And I'll pick something and we'll roll with it. But in the meantime, hope you enjoyed today's video. You learned a little about UPSs, batteries, and coolers. I think we covered a lot of stuff. If you have any technical questions you want to ask me, please send it to my email address. And I'm not generally answering this email, but I will read your tech support question aloud during a future live stream if it's a question I feel, one, I can answer, and two, would be beneficial to others. Some questions are very, very specific, and I just can't imagine who else would benefit from that. But the email address I'll put right here on the bottom of the screen. And if you're sending emails that are jokes, or they want to say hello, or you just want somebody to talk to, you're not likely going to get a reply. But if you have a sincere question, or you're interested in buying a computer from me and you're sincere, then that is how you're going to reach me. So thank you again for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And until then, bye for now.